I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
anybody
drive.
to drive?
Let's get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new Christmas special review. And as Christmas special review, I'm fixing this hat. Hold that thought. Alright, that'll do. This Christmas special review is going to be for a Muppet one, ironically. And this is a Muppet one that's actually, only you can really find this on YouTube now, really. The only home media format this ever got released on was VHS. That VHS now is like hard to find, and if you would find on Amazon, it would probably be like hundreds of dollars. But this is one I remember seeing on VHS as an infant, like once. And I'm revisiting it to give it a review. It's pretty underlooked by a lot of people because it wasn't really that well known now. But this is kind of the closest you get to all of Jim Henson's characters in one project together. That's going to be for A Muppet Family Christmas for 1987. Well, technically speaking, I think this should be called more Jim Henson Family Christmas Special or like that because it's kind of about all the characters. While it's primarily about the Muppets, but it's pretty much about all of Jim Henson's characters that he had. But the plot of this is that Fozzie Bear's mother's plans to go on vacation in Malibu, but she gets an unexpected surprise from her son Fozzie Bear, who has bought Kermit, Gonzo, the rest of the crew to spend Christmas at her place. Miss Piggy's missing though because Miss Piggy has to get a lot of Christmas gifts and she gets stuck in a snowstorm. And eventually, they're not the only ones there. Doc and Sprocket were originally going to rent the place out, but they get stuck with the whole gang. And then the Sesame Street gang all come in, and you get a brief appearance from the Fraggles. And it ends up having a Christmas extravaganza with one another. Yeah, it's pretty much how the special goes. It's pretty much the Muppets go to Fozzie's mother's house. Then, of course, Doc and Sprocket are renting a place and have to spend Christmas with them. Then, of course, after that, the Sesame Street are carolers and they end up there. Yeah, that stuff. So that's my reaction. It's a special that isn't really shown at all anymore, unless it's on YouTube. It's rare to find this on VHS. But I'm able to rewatch this special on YouTube, and I gotta say, this is a very good heartfelt special. It's definitely beautiful seeing all the late Jim Henson's characters appear in one project together, like in some of the Muppet films, like the original film, and Take Manhattan, some of the Sesame Street characters, like Big Bird or Ernie Burt, would make some cameo appearances. Like in the first Muppet film, Kermit and Fozzie spotted Big Bird on the road, and they offered him a ride, but he was going to New York City, while they were headed to Hollywood, so we politely declined their ride. And of course, then made a brief appearance again at the end with the rest of the Muppet characters. Then in Take Manhattan, him, Ernie Burt, then made another appearance where they were watching the wedding of Kermit and Miss Piggy, which was the play they were trying to make throughout the film. Here you actually get all the Sesame Street characters in this one. And now, pretty much, and also you get all the Fraggles for like one brief little scene, really. And you get a cameo of the late Jim Henson himself at the end, and especially may he rest in peace. It actually is also kind of emotional seeing him at the end. And this was definitely a very good special. It's one of the few Muppet productions, like, how it was made was that it's one of the few Muppet productions to feature Muppets associated with all four of the major franchises. Like The Muppet Show, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, yeah. Even a brief scene of them watching them as babies, like the Muppet Babies, where they're actual puppets and not their animated counterparts. The actual puppets from Take Manhattan. The special features even Jim Henson, a cameo appearance at the end, and of course, when it was officially completed, it was kind of broadcasted in 1987 or 1989. And right there, and some licensing scenes that songs get featured in Muppet Family Christmas, some get cut from home media releases, and it's not been released entirely on VHS or DVD in North America. There were several stuff that only aired on TV and had to be cut. Like, basically, what was cut was that the original opening title that was overshot at Emily Bear's house, and of course, the Snowman and Fozzie's Acts comedy. And you hear Rolf inside playing the piano, and the whole movie that features Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Scooter's babies, that sings Santa Claus coming to town. And the Muppets sing Home for the Holidays after Miss Piggy's belated arrival. Among other few songs during the carol bit at the end. And a brief shot of Fozzie and Elmo lighting a Christmas tree. Like, that's one problem I'll say right now. Elmo is briefly in a special, and he gets, like, no lines. Sadly. Like, if you're gonna have all the characters, at least give Elmo a line. Like, that was what was missing. I feel like Elmo should have got a scene with some of the characters. You see him in, like, the crowd, but it's for, like, a few minor appearances. And when he does say line, the characters are also kind of speaking over him as well, so you can't really hear what he says. Really, but of course, another scene of Fozzie telling his mother that he's too old to have a stocking hunt, but then he changes his mind. But the special then aired on December 16th, 1987, and it ranked 24th out of 69 in Nielsen ratings the week it aired, and was watched by around 19 million viewers. So here are the good qualities of the story of this 40-minute special. What is in here is that there's a lot of charm and joy to be found in this 40-minute special. This is definitely what a lot of Jim Henson fans will really appreciate. I feel like no other reason, because the mass gathering of every single Muppet Show, Sesame Street, and Fraggle Rock character, cameo from the late Jim Henson, he's surveying his creations while they're celebrating the season. Even those who aren't Muppet fans, but also have some Christmas fever, it could be really enjoyable. And some heartwarming sequences, and several Christmas songs that get performed, and there's a lot of great stuff from Jim Henson projects in this 1 hour or 40-minute TV special. They brought together many of his TV work, there's traditional songs, some reworked ones. It's Muppet Joy, and there's like something fun about the child simplicity it has. And it's pretty much a rare time where all of Jim Henson's characters are gathered at the same time, with each other as well. You have the gang from The Muppet Show. You have the gang from Sesame Street. You have the Fraggles from Fraggle Rock. And even some of the Muppet Baby versions of the characters for a brief little bit. And, like, it's a great Christmas special to have all the characters here. It does it without being overcomplicated. It's very simple. It's really just the Muppets all gathering together to celebrate Christmas. Really, there's not some, like, major plot. It's kind of all just the whole characters celebrating with one another, being caught up in a snowstorm. Like, they don't overdo anything. There's no bright lights, over-the-top musical numbers, and there's no superficial characters, plot themes, or messages as well. And of course, you got a bit of, like, Doc and Sprocket are just annoyed of all the game, but they're kind of starting to slowly warm up to them, to the point where Doc goes out looking for Miss Piggy and gets her back to the house. But I'll talk about that stuff near the finale. So how do we start off this special? So we start off the special where Fozzie is driving all the gang, his friends, Kermit, Gonzo, the rest of the gang, like the Mayhem Band, Kermit and Gonzo are in the front seat with Fozzie, while the other gang are, like, in the back of the car. He's driving into his mother's farm for Christmas, and they're all singing, "We Need a Little Christmas." And it's kind of weird how most of the gang that are not in the truck are already freezing out there, because it looks cold out there. And it's, like, snowing really hard. Well, they're pretty much on their way, and they're excited. But Kerr's like, Fozzie, don't you think we should have told that we were coming down, but Fozzie's like, nah, she loves surprises. And what they don't know is Fozzie's mother is actually trying to go to Malibu and rent her farmhouse to Doc and Sprocket, and just want to spend a nice, quiet Christmas in the country, right there. And Doc and Sprocket arrive just then when Fozzie and the other Muppets enter, and there's a bit of an ice patch you almost have to look out for when they enter the house, and they disrupt Emily Doc's plans for the holidays, right there. So she can't go to Malibu now, and now Doc can't have the house to himself. And of course, then Miss Piggy calls Kermit because she has a photo session, and it's going to be late, and he's going to be doing some Christmas shopping afterwards, so Kermit starts to get worried. And it makes sense because the snow starts to get really bad as the special progresses. And it does lead to some more funny moments, though, with Miss Piggy's subplot. And then Rolf the dog arrives, and the Swedish chef arrives, because like the Swedish chef is preparing Christmas dinner for everybody, and then the Christmas turkey that the Swedish chef called is there. Gonzo tries telling him to flee, but the turkey refuses, and throughout the special, he's working to avoid the Swedish chef. Fozzie outside builds a snowman, and it comes to life, and it stays with Fozzie, and puts on a comedy act with him, and the rest of the animals are all observing it. Then Fozzie goes in the house and he tells Kermit about the new act, but then Miss Piggy calls again. She calls about the Christmas shopping before she goes to the farmhouse. And then, of course, after that, like, the gang do watch a whole movie themselves as babies before, like, Animal interrupts it and rips through the screen. And Doc's like, even weirdos can be cute when they're babies. I knew you'd warm up to us. And God's like, I knew you'd warm up to us. I wasn't talking about you. And they're just Basil with all the guests they have to deal with, and sometimes constantly having to switch a bunch of sleeping arrangements. Like, finding the original version of this is kind of tough because there's various rights to the 4 Muppet franchises, like Disney and HBO. It's nice to unite the Muppets with Fraggle Rock, Sesame Street, but when it comes to rights, though, it clearly seemed like hell, and there is a version. There are a few versions of it on YouTube, and I will post a link to the ones who want to check out this special. If you're a Muppet fan, I will post a link in the description. I promise. And of course, but it is rare to find. So I'll post a link to it in the description, or I'll post it in the comments. So if you want to check it out after this review. Like, there's a lot going on in this Christmas special. Like, it's 40 minutes long, but it packs in and loads in the runtime. It's never boring. And the Swedish chef, like, has a few bits where either he's trying to cook one of the chickens, or cook the turkey, or the turkey tries to convince him to cook Big Bird. And that does lead into an emotional moment later. And speaking of Big Bird, guys, then you get the Sesame Street characters that arrive. They hear some killers outside. It consists of all the Sesame Street characters like Big Bird, Ernie and Bert, just about everybody. Yes, including Oscar the Grouch. Oscar the Grouch is among them. But he's not singing because he doesn't like Christmas. He just sits in his trash can a lot of times. But all the Muppets continue to prepare for Christmas, and the news comes on TV, and this Muppet newsman reports a bad blizzard is approaching the area. And Kermit realizes Miss Piggy's in a storm, and he gets even more worried about her. And because of now everybody is there, they have to go over where everyone is going to sleep now again. They have to arrange the attic for Big Bird and Cookie Monster. And speaking of Cookie Monster, one of the Electric Man band members brings this plate of Christmas cookies for everybody. But Cookie Monster sees them, Christmas cookies, blah, 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 blah. Because, well, remember, he's Cookie Monster. He eats them all. He eats all the Christmas cookies and says, thank you. And Harry Monster is asleep in the bathtub. Ernie and Bert have to bunk with Kermit. Then Fozzie then asks about Oscar the Grouch, but Oscar's like, nah, I'll be nicely miserable in my trash can. But Rizzo then comes in, asks if he can bunk with him, and surprisingly, Oscar does have a bit of a heart here, because he's never had a rat in his trash can before, and so he lets Rizzo bunk with him. So, even though, despite the fact that Oscar doesn't really like Christmas and likes to be miserable in his trash can, he actually is nice enough to let Rizzo bunk with him for the night. And the Sesame Street gang then pretty much perform their play of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas for everybody. And two-headed monster portrays Santa Claus. Kermit then gets another call from Piggy because her limo got stuck in the snow and she has to call for a taxi. So the turkey has now tricked Swedish Chef to make a meal out of Big Bird. So he calls Big Bird into the kitchen. He's unaware of his intentions because of his naivety and young age. But of course, like when pretty much Big Bird gives him this chocolate-covered bird seed for Christmas and then sings the Christmas song with him, a brief little bit of it. And the Swedish Chef even joins in, sings his part in Swedish because he's Swedish. And of course, it actually leads to a sweet moment when Big Bird and Chef meet for the first time. Just he's about to try to cook him for dinner. He gets the seeds and then he has to change of heart as both of them then sing the Christmas song together. And he's emotional by this. He decides not to cook Big Bird. And he changes the Christmas dinner to shredded wheat and cranberry sauce. And it's once also nice to see Oscar the Grouch actually be nice enough to let Rizzo bunk in his garbage can. Because he's never had a rap before. And sleeping arrangements get made for the rest of the characters. And of course, like, before all this, though, like, Fozzie approaches Kermit that he can start this comedy act with the snowman he built earlier. But it cut short because apparently the two critic Muppet characters, Statler and Waldorf, who heckle the game throughout their show, happen to be friends with Fozzie's mom. Their act gets sadly cut short, so the snowman has to go to the back because he's about to melt. And the reason why the snowman came inside because even he's cold from the snow. But then he realizes he's starting to melt in the house. He has to go outside the back again. Like, this really showed the hard work Jim Henson really did put into this special. And it was one of the best works he did, and it really shows. The amount of work goes into this from the songs, and puppeteering, like having to portray all these puppets at once for all these actors and puppeteers. The setup is just so special, and it's nice seeing Doc and Sprocket here. There are some times that kind of the gag of like, we were supposed to celebrate Christmas alone. That does get repeated a little bit, and eventually does kind of get annoying after the first bit. Like, it's a fantastic Muppet and Christmas special all together. And it's sad it doesn't really get released on home media, really, and it's kind of impossible to find. Especially because it was nice that Jim Henson even appeared as a cameo of himself at the end, and while Elmo can be seen in the background, he doesn't have any lines. That was a problem I had. I wish we had a bit of lines with Elmo. And there are several Christmas songs sung by the cast, and they take up some time in the story. It's great, and it just feels like a great addition to anyone that likes all three of these shows these characters are from. So, while Doc has not really liked any of the Muppet gang for a little bit, he does kind of start to slightly warm up to them, and he does show a little bit of sympathy for Kermit when he's getting worried about Piggy because of how bad the snowstorm is getting. So Doc decides he's going to go look for Piggy, and meanwhile, Piggy was stuck out in the snow trying to push the taxi, but mud got sprayed in her face. And I wish we got a little angry reaction out of her, like a little angry scream from her. That would have been a lot funnier, because whenever Miss Piggy acts like a drama queen, it's actually those are kind of some of the funniest moments of her. So I wish she kind of did her rage at that bit, though. Like, it seems like they're about to, but they kind of cut away from it. But if they showed her rage at that, it would have been funny, because I like it when she rages. It's the funniest thing about the character. And then, of course, this is where you get to where they meet the Fraggles, where Robin, Kermit's nephew, calls Kermit to the basement. They find a Fraggle hole, and they meet the Fraggles. Right there, and where the Fraggles give them a few pebbles, and this is really the only time the Fraggles make an appearance. They don't interact with the rest of the characters. They're just there for this scene, and then they just stay in the hole for the rest of it. But then after they learn a bit of Christmas, they go back home, and then basically they see that Doc has found Piggy, riding a dog sled with Doc. And of course, they all reunite. And so after Miss Piggy is done with them, all the Muppets then gather in front of a little fireplace, and they pretty much are all together in the living room, and they sing a medley of Christmas carols and swap presents. Oscar, though, just sits in his trash can because he doesn't like Christmas once again. And of course, like, Miss Piggy gets, like, this gift, is that it's a mink, and It's actually a mink that's actually a big fan of hers. It's a Muppet mink that greets Miss Piggy, which was definitely a nice moment, an ironic moment as well. And this is a nice way to end the special because I really like how the last act you get all these Muppet characters just singing carols for the audience, for the fans of them. It actually really feels like they're all singing this for all the fans that love all these shows. Because this special is kind of like supposed to be a love letter to all the Sesame Street fans, the Fraggle Rock fans, the Muppet Show fans. And then Doc comes in dressed as Santa Claus and gives presents to all the Muppets. Like, yeah, the part where they're singing the carols, it feels like the love letter, like I've said. It's a good way for the final act to go. The plotline with Miss Piggy trying to get to the farmhouse is very classic Miss Piggy. There, of course. And while Doc was expected to have a quiet Christmas, with the packed Muppets and kind of make it impossible, and then the Sesame Street come in and make things more chaotic, Doc does get a little annoyed with him at first, but I like that he does warm up to the characters and even goes and helps Miss Piggy after seeing Kermit being worried for her a lot. And the 5 main Fraggles from Fraggle Rock, they don't know much about Christmas, but then they join in the fun after Kermit and Robin teach them about it. So now we get on with pretty much the last bit of the finale, where the last scene, which is definitely now emotional for a lot of Jim Henson fans. Now, especially because he was sadly no longer with us by the late 90s, where Jim Henson himself makes a cameo appearance, and with Sprocket, and he's like, they have a lot of fun, but someone's got to do these dishes. I'll wash you dry. And it was nice to see. It's definitely nice and it's very heartfelt seeing Jim Henson actually observe all his puppet characters he's created all having a great time and then cleaning up the mess they made and from Christmas dinner they had off screen. And Kermit and Piggy kiss under the mistletoe and they wish the entire audience or the viewers a Merry Christmas, and the end credits roll over Fozzie's mother's house. That is how this beautiful Jim Henson special that shows all the guys' creative work all together in one 40-minute special ends. All the characters of one house celebrate the holidays together. Jim Henson, the late Jim Henson making a cameo. It wraps it all up well. I don't think they could have picked any other better way to wrap this up. This was a good way for this was kind of a good way for it to go out. And it's sad we pretty much won't really get any characters meeting really a lot anymore because how uptight Disney is with trying to share anything. Alright, so do I have any bad qualities with the special? Now, we do see the Fraggle Rock characters, but we don't really get them for very long. I mean, the main Fraggles really only have like one scene, and they just share with Kermit and Robin, and they don't interact with the rest of the Muppets. So that is kind of disappointing that they don't really interact with anybody else for the rest of the movie. Because I kind of wish they did come up with them. Like, sure, that probably would have been a little too hard because they already have the Sesame Street and Muppet Gang in one room. But I wish they did interact with some of the other characters. I mean, because Doc and Sprocket are friends with them. So, and plus, apparently the Fraggles told Doc quite a bit about them before they had arrived at that place. And speaking of Doc and Sprocket in this special, a gag where he's kind of whining constantly about not spending the holiday like he wanted. Does kind of get a little bit of beating of a dead horse gag by the point, eventually. And thankfully he does start to warm up to them because the gag kind of got old after the few times they were kind of repeated that line. I wish he could have spent Christmas alone for a bit. But at least he does warm up to them. But yeah, and it's kind of sad how I can't really find the original version. But other than that, I still love this Christmas special. You get to see all your favorite Muppet characters, hear your favorite traditional Christmas songs sung by them, and see a guest appearance from the late Jim Henson at the end. It's rare to find, but I'll post a link to it on YouTube. And you can even Google on YouTube if you want to. So in the end, if you are a fan of Jim Henson's work, I would totally watch this special because it's a terrific love letter to the late Jim Henson nowadays and the fans of all his works, from either the Muppets or Sesame Street or Muppet Babies or Fraggle Rock. Anyways, that's it for my review of A Muppet Family Christmas. If you want to rank A Muppet Family Christmas, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you love Jim Henson's work and want to see a rare special as all the characters of his come together in one project, then I'll tell you to watch this on YouTube for sure. And if you want to rank A Muppet Family Christmas, I'm going to give A Muppet Family Christmas an 8 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up my TV special review for A Muppet Family Christmas. So, if you have seen this special and remember some of it, I want to know in the comments what you think about it. Well, or either after you watch it, if you do decide to watch it when I post a link to it in the description. And until then, guys, that will be it for this special review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.